There are three major things that happened that basically destroyed the country. One of them is Brexit. Brexit was a big one that happened. And when Brexit happened, the UK actually lost a lot of investments as well as a lot of incentives. So that's number one. Another thing that happened was COVID. When COVID happened, the government had to borrow, I think, up to 100 billion pounds just to inject into the economy to boost things up. Now, if you recall, by borrowing money, that leads to inflation. So everything rose again. The third thing that actually finished the country is the Ukraine war. Remember, when the Ukraine war started, Europe and London were complaining because they didn't have gas and their heating bill, electricity and energy. So because of energy, heating, everything has gone up, making it such a very difficult situation for people who are in the UK. Because of that, things are much expensive today. This country is finished. The UK is finished. So I keep talking about this all the times, and every time people are always wondering, what is this guy talking about now? He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm here visiting one of my friends just outside London, and these homes you are looking at right now, my friend is renting. These homes you are looking at, they're £500,000. Each of the homes here, they're very expensive. So that's the mailman. Royal Mail. Yeah. So food is expensive, petrol is expensive, housing is expensive, childcare is expensive. Just about everything you think of, it's always an issue. So how do you manage, and how do you get by if you're spending that much money? So when I jackpot, my friend also jackpot, but me, I jackpot to the US, he jackpot to the UK. Another friend of ours jackpot to Canada. So just looking at those three countries, my friend who I was trying to get on air, but I wouldn't get on air, he was just saying that the UK was worse than all three. And I agree with him. The UK is actually quite worse. And this country is completely finished. And I'll tell you why. There are a few reasons. The first reason being that the cost of living is so high. The cost of living in the UK is very expensive. UK ain't cheap. And the currency is also the pounds, which does not make it better. So what do I mean by the cost of living very high? So where he's staying, he pays about £2,000 a month, right in this area. He pays about £2,000 a month. So imagine you are spending £2,000 a month, and the average salary is £35 a year. So if you do the math, that's less than £2,000 a month. And that's just the rent. That just is rent only. That does not include council tax. That does not include electricity tax. That does not include the internet. That does not include water, sewer, and just all the bills that he has to pay. If you add everything up, he's spending close to £2,700 in a month. So if you're spending £2,700 in a month, and the average salary is £2,000 a month, that leaves you with about £300 left. That leaves about £300 left. With that £300 left, by the time you go food, grocery shopping, there's not even enough to get by. Now, I was lucky because he married a British citizen, so he was able to get his immigration papers, and he's been here for a long time. But if you were to move today, to even be able to get something to do is very difficult. There are no jobs since the UK left Brexit, so the jobs are very difficult to come by, number one. Number two, the cost of living is so expensive. It is freakingly expensive, and I don't even know how people are able to even cope. Because even if you have 2-income salary, you're not going to even have enough at all. You're not going to be able to have enough for you to be able to put together. So that just makes things quite interesting. You are spending £3,000 on the house. You have kids at that point. The kids have to go to daycare or they have to go to school. Then also you have to pay for your car. If you're in an area where you can't drive, like where I'm at now, driving is actually something that is a luxury. Most people don't drive here, so they have to use the public bus. They use the public transportation system because driving is just something that you cannot afford. It's very expensive. Not just to buy a car, but to get the car insurance. Then also you have to pay for road tax. You have to pay for your MOT. By the time you add everything up, I don't even know how people here are surviving. Especially if you're an immigrant. How are you going to cope? How are you going to make it? You are basically scraping the pounds and the pence because it becomes extremely difficult, extremely unaffordable, extremely expensive. Now, compared to other countries where there are jobs, like the US or Canada, compared to that country where you have an opportunity to be able to make things work in terms of financial management, savings account. Here, you can't really have a savings account. You are barely living just to survive. There's no savings account at all. You can't save. People are canceling their Netflix membership here, I'm told, because they don't have that 15 pounds extra or that 10 pounds extra to be able to save, that they can save and use for a little bit of entertainment and rest. So those are the things you want to think about and consider if you are someone who is really, really interested or thinking about coming to the UK. The other thing also is there's a lot of pressure on the health system, the NHS. So do not fall sick here. And I talked about this before, how a lot of Nigerians come to the UK and abroad and they are just dying because the medical system, access to public funds is very limited. So most people don't have access to it. Their roads are very small, as you can see. I think it's getting loud here. So I'm going to have to get off this main road so you can hear me. So this is the kind of houses you have in the UK. You see all the old houses. These are flats and apartments, all attached together. No parking in most cases because there's no land. Parking is a big issue. So even if you have a car, you can't find somewhere to park. And they don't play with parking here, guys. There's a parking police that goes about giving people tickets. Then there are cameras everywhere. Just everywhere you go, you find cameras just monitoring people's movements and monitoring where people go. Yes, so like I was saying, there are cameras everywhere and the cameras are monitoring all your movements. Everywhere you go, everything you do, the cameras are there just monitoring you. So, and they're giving people tickets in the mail. These guys don't play with their tickets. So, I mean, if you don't break the law, I think you'll be fine there. Now, a few years back, about 15, 20 years ago, from what I researched, the price of home is double the average salary. That was like 20 years ago. Today, the price of the home is 10 times the average salary. So an average UK salary is $35,000 a year. And the average home outside London here where I'm living is about 330,000 pounds. So that's 10 times. How are you going to be able to make it? Yes, you get a mortgage, you need 10% down. But 10% down is your salary for a year. So it's making it very difficult for people to be able to even afford to buy a house. We know that the home is the number one investment that can help increase wealth. So if you don't have a house, you are renting. I mean, a friend of mine that I visited yesterday while here, he and 3 other Nigerians are sharing a flat. The flat has 2 bedrooms, 2 guys to a room. These are not kids. These are guys that have family back home and came here just for a better life. It's not cheap. And for that, he's still paying about £700. So for 4 of them, that's £2,800. Again, by the time you add your county tax, your water bill, and everything added to it, you will notice that you're over £3,500 or even £4,000 in a month. And these are guys that are hustling, just hustling and trying to make it. So long story short, to me, the UK is more of some type of slavery, a modern era slavery, living in this UK. And there are nice homes, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of nice homes, but these homes are very expensive here in this area. These are £500,000, £700 homes. So the homes are very expensive. They are not cheap. And honestly, I think that if you want to come here, you should really reconsider it. That peace of mind you have back home and that luxury you can sleep in. Yes, so you are not making a lot of money. Yes, so there's no electricity. Yes, so things are difficult. But at least you have peace of mind. Nobody's on your neck chasing you. And it's not like you are pursuing something, which most of the guys that come here, they are constantly chasing, going to work, doing 12-hour shifts. You know, my friend I'm staying with, he's working like 26 days in a month. Imagine 26 days in a month. And he's just going. He's always working so he can just pay the bills. And by the time he pays the bills, he'll be lucky if he had anything left to send back home. So guys, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think that the UK is actually falling. This is a first world country, developed country, might I say, but still the economics is not making sense. And I think it's intentional. I think the government has a plan. They are doing this maybe to chase people out So don't come to this country. But many people don't know that. Instead, they all keep coming. I don't want to talk about the student visa situation, whereby you come, you pay thousands of pounds, lots of money, and then when you finish, you can't even give you residency. You have to go back to your country, unless you know one or two ways. And again, nothing is guaranteed. You have to be hustling and fighting after paying all that money. And then there's the issue where your dependents cannot come. If they come, there's one thing or another. And then the immigration system is just whack, like completely whack. So I know nobody's talking about this now, because everybody's just lining up. Everybody wants to jackpot. Everybody wants jackpot. Yeah, you can see, guys, the roads are tiny. This is like a road though. That road cannot fit 2 cars, but 1 car have to park on the side. Most of them, you see a car that will park on the side and another car will move to the other side, because the road is too narrow, which again is by design. The cars are all very, very small, like teeny tiny cars. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the section below, let me know. But personally, I think you should consider I think you should consider sharing this with someone that you think might be considering jackpine, or someone you think might be considering leaving the country. But for me, if I had my way, I'll be like, no thank you very much. Because even if you finish here and you want to start a living, you can't even balance things. Kids are on their parents' insurance for a very long time. You see, that's the road. It can only fit 1 car, but it's a two-way road. Because the UK is very small, it's congested, very, very congested. But yet people are still rushing and running down here. So me, I'm just visiting. Thank God I'm not here. My friend that is here, he's used to it. I don't say he necessarily loves it, because he has no savings. He's not able to really save any money at all. He's just working. So you work to somewhat live instead of the other way around. Hello. Okay. Yeah, he's working to live instead of living to work. Doesn't make sense anymore at all. And most people are really considering leaving the country. If you are here, you really want to think about that. Should you leave or should you stay? All right, I was talking about how narrow their roads are. You can see there's a car parking. With 1 car parked, it basically take up the road, half the road. And these are street parking. Unlike other countries in the US where you have, alleys and you have garages, here most houses in the UK don't have that luxury. And you have their roads that are just super narrow, super tiny, and cars just have to manage. And those guys at night, they are worrying where are they going to move their car to, or on certain hours of the day they have to move their car. So imagine you can't even have that peace of mind, because you're always thinking about where are you going to put your car. If you need to move your car, what's going to happen? The reason why is because a lot of these homes, London in general, was built before cars became a thing. If you recall, London is one of those old developed countries. So if you had a house that was built over 100 years ago, as most of these houses are, back then there were no cars. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You can see there are 2 cars here trying to move. And then you see 1 car has to kind of park to the side a little bit. It's going to park to the side so that the other car can move, because the 2 cars can't move together. Otherwise, there will be a crash. So like I was saying, because these homes are 100 years old, 200 years old, back then there were no cars. There were no roads. What you just had was horse carriages and horses and a cart. So the roads are small because the roads were not meant for cars. London is small and the homes are small because homes were meant to be smaller then. And development has not come in yet. Whereby, like you see, in most developed countries, what will happen is the developer will come through, demolish these homes and build a brand new 21st century house. These homes are 18th century, 19th century, 20th century homes. So cars were not around back then. You didn't need big roads back then, and you didn't need big houses either. This is another probably 18th century house, if you guys can see. Super old. Nothing, even the windows, the glasses are old and probably 100 years old. But these are flats where people are living today, and people live here. So again, street parking. So after that, because of inflation, the price of goods and services have spiked. The price of goods or services, the price of getting things done have increased, Housing prices increases and never settled back in. And with that, you have situation whereby homelessness. Homelessness is a big one in London. As of 2024, 9 million people in the UK are inactive. Inactive meaning they are not unemployed or they are not employed. They are just there, they don't want to work. So imagine if you have a country with almost 70 million people, more than 10% of the population are choosing not to work. They're just sitting at home. And that's why they had to open up the borders for immigration. If you noticed back in 2021, 22, right after COVID, 23, the borders were open to bring more people in. But not only were the borders open, but the immigration was also tightened and made harder. People from sub-Saharan Africa, people from Asia, Southeast Asia were allowed in. And that is because those in the UK themselves, they don't want to work. The UK residents, the UK citizens, they don't want to work. They are mostly lazy. Very, very lazy stuff people. And excuse me if you find that offensive. I don't mean this in a negative way. I just mean that people do not want to work. If the average salary is £35,000 in a year, and that means you are making about £3,000 a month, where are you going to find money to be able to pay for rent and things to eat and food and buy petrol and housing and heating and all of that? It just makes it very, very difficult, because the UK now is one of the countries with the least disposable income out of the G7 countries. So no disposable income for people living here. You're just working without any savings at all. And without any savings, we know you cannot get ahead. When people work, you can get taxes. But when people are not working, then the government cannot tax people. If the government cannot tax people, that means that the government does not have a lot of income, because governments make money from taxes. But if the government is not able to tax people, that means the government does not have money to make. If people are not working, the government have lesser opportunity to tax people. And with less taxes means lesser income for the government. In turn means more pressure on the social systems, because people are home using the healthcare, using the public society, public facilities in place. So it puts more pressure on the public resources. So overall, it's not a win-win. They don't make anything here. You can't say they make electronics here per se. You can't say they make rice or yam or beans. It's not a large agricultural country. Neither is it a large industrial nation. All these are factors that make it much more challenging.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, good morning. Yeah. All these are what makes it much challenging for people here to even be able to make ends meet. So this attitude of people not really working puts a lot of pressure, because you know how the society works. If people don't spend money, then the employer doesn't hire people to service those people that are spending money, and the government does not get taxes because the employer doesn't have things to tax on. So people need to work, but people have chosen not to work or to stay at home, then makes things very, very difficult. And then you have the government who, for the most part, over the last decade, have ignored all these factors. Instead, they've been borrowing money. Now, Keir Starmer, the new Labour Prime Minister, what he wants to do is just to tax the rich, and just tax to be able to kind of fill in the debt and make the country start coming back. But unfortunately, by taxing, what that's going to do is drive a lot of investors out of the country, I think. And at the end of the day, when investors are driven out of the country, the UK itself will have less people. And it's just going to go shittier. This is one of the things that lead to the poor living standards. The living standards are very poor, and they will continue to be that way until a point is reached when a decision can be made on how to fix the problem of taxation. How can they fix the problem of taxation? And that is one thing that needs to be done. So overall, these are the reasons why I think the UK, on a micro and a macro level, is going to continue to suffer, and people who are moving here will continue to have a hard time, because even housing is very, very expensive. Everything is expensive because of the debt. The debt is number one and number two source of government funds where the government is servicing, because the interest rates are so high now, and just making for a very, very tough time for the economy. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me, or do you not agree? I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.
BattaBox.